Welcome to The Nation. I'm Rachel Smalley. This time last year, The Nation aired the only TV debate with the two men who hope to lead the Labour Party after Phil Gough's election night resignation. Here's a reminder of the tone of that interview.
I find that the Labour Party has just become too focused on process. We end up going to meetings where we talk about process, and it hasn't become a contest of ideas, of really open ideas. And therefore it's become boring. And people join political parties because they want to have this contest, they want to argue stuff together, and they want to see good stuff moving forward. And I think we've lost that, and I think we've lost some of our good thinkers.
A lot of criticism.
Absolutely right.
And you agree with?
I do, and I welcome the process that we've got over the next week, where we're debating openly with each other and with our party members to make sure that we have that open dialogue.
And here we are, nearly a year later, and again on our last program for the year, we're talking about the Labour leadership. David Shearer has failed to convince some doubters within Labour that he can win the next election. And he's faced what many argue has been a persistent campaign to undermine him by David Cunliffe, the MP for New Lynn. And it came to a head last weekend when Cunliffe was pressed by The Nation on the eve of the Labour Party conference.
Will you be voting for David Shearer?
I'm not prepared to discuss individual remits, whatever they are. I'm a very strong supporter of the organisational review. I haven't formed a view on any particular matters that are caucus matters, and in any particular case it wouldn't be appropriate to talk about them now.
Will you be working over the summer, or will you be taking a break?
I have no view on that, but I tell you what, if my family don't see me having a good break, then that wouldn't be a good thing. So I'll be enjoying a very nice, restful summer. Thank you very much.
So you don't have a position you're going to take on the...
I haven't given it any thought. This is an organisational and constitutional review. As I say, I'm absolutely confident that it will lead to an empowered, a revitalised Labour Party that's ready to win in 2014.
Much of the anti-Shearer sentiment has fermented on the Standard blog, where anonymous people have been vitriolic in their criticism. We asked its owner, Lynn Prentice, to appear on the program. He declined. But senior party members have told us that there is very real concern within Labour about the Standard's ability to destabilise the party. Shearer's own performance has also worried some Labour supporters. This was David Shearer's interview on The Nation in April this year.
Would you change the law, reverse it, put it on hold, stop the convention centre, stop this deal? Have you taken advice? Could you do it?
Look, I think the big thing... Oh, I can't do that as opposition, no. I mean, I'd love to be able to do it as government.
Opposition. But as a pledge or a promise going into the next election campaign, would you say we're going to reverse that law, stop this deal and take legal advice on it or not?
Well, if the law was changed and the cap on gambling was taken off, we would want to go back to where we are right now, and that is a sinking lid policy where pokie machines are gradually phased out.
Do you believe you could stop this deal, is what I'm asking you? If you became Prime Minister in 2 years and 6 months or whatever...
It depends on where it's at. I mean, you know...
But would you look at it?
Absolutely. Yeah, I actually think that what the government should be doing now, I think there's enough questions.
Now, David Shearer found a new voice in his keynote speech last weekend and in our interview with him, which we recorded just a short time ago. I began by asking the Labour leader how he could now win the full support of his party.
Well, first of all, the conference that we had on the weekend put a lot of that behind us. It was hugely successful despite the news that followed through the week. We set out a new direction for Labour. We set out a new direction for New Zealand and where we were going to go with that. And that was really, really well received. I mean, it was a fantastic conference. It was the biggest in a generation. We had 1,000 people at my speech. And we also made big changes within the party as well. So the party is in good heart, and it really has a focus now, and people were energised in going out to really make a difference.
Do you accept, though, that there are people within the party who don't accept the legitimacy of your leadership?
Look, I think there's always going to be some sort of discussion around my leadership. That's inevitable of any leader. But as I say, the conference itself was a really big success, and people came out of that energised and really feeling like Labour was moving ahead again. And the housing policy that we announced in particular really made the big difference. I mean, we had a standing ovation during that, putting 100,000 first home buyers into their own homes. That's a pretty bold initiative for Labour.
That said, there will still be people who believe within the party that you're too centrist, and they'll hark back to that comment about, you know, the man on the roof. They will say that you're too centrist. Are you looking to move your position at all on that?
The big issue about what I was putting forward in my speech at the conference was very much about, if you're going to be in government, you have to be a hands-on government. It's no good anymore being hands-off, leave it to the market. And that's the big difference between where National is going and where I would be going as a Labour leader in a Labour-led government. We have to be hands-on. So that means that we have to become involved in whether it be monetary policy or the housing issue that I was talking to you about just now. That has to be the direction that we're going in. And that is something that I believe that Labour Party followers, and actually all of New Zealand, really get behind.
So you can be hands-on, but will you be hands-on more towards a centrist positioning or further across to the left?
Look, I don't buy that left-right. It's a sort of debate. I think it's a phony debate. It's about the government getting in there and actually doing what it's supposed to do. And at the moment, the government is not doing what it's supposed to do, and that's why we've got 1,000 people a week going to Australia and 7.3% unemployment. The government has to be there pulling the levers and doing the right thing for New Zealand, and it's simply not. And that's the sort of leadership that I would bring to the Labour Party. And that's where I believe the Labour Party followers that were there, and more broadly in New Zealand, actually want us to go.
I want to go back briefly to the events of last weekend. On Saturday morning, bloggers, commentators, political editors, they all said that this conference, your speech, this, was vital. It was, you had to put on a big performance in that. Yeah. That same morning, the Weekend Herald printed a prominent profile piece of Helen Clarke. How helpful or otherwise was that to you?
Oh, look, I think people have got past that. I mean, Helen Clarke is now firmly ensconced for the last 4 years as the UNDP Administrator. Great job. And she was talking about climate change, which is a hugely significant issue for not only the UN, but obviously us. So I think that people have moved on from that.
My understanding, though, is that some of your supporters are pretty furious that appeared in the paper. Her timing was pretty lousy.
Well, I haven't heard that. So, I mean, if they are my supporters, they haven't communicated that to me.
OK. Helen Clarke, though, hasn't come out and endorsed you, per se, has she? She endorsed Phil Goff, but she hasn't come out and endorsed you. Well,
she stayed right out of the way. And that's...
then she did pop up in the paper, though, at the weekend, on the Labour Party conference weekend.
Well, yes, but she was interviewed and she's about climate change. She'd given a speech about climate change a couple of days before, so I don't think we need to read too much into that.
Would it be useful to you, though, if she did come out and endorse you?
Oh, I'm not looking for that. I'm simply just saying, from my point of view, I have the endorsement in my caucus, we move on and we get on to the issues that we need to be focused on.
David Cunliffe remains in the caucus, albeit he's a fair way back. He's a fair way at the back of it. What's your personal view of David Cunliffe as a man, as a bloke? Oh, look, from the point of view as a person that I have worked with over the last few years, I have an enormous amount of respect for him. I mean, his knowledge around the economic issues and the political issues around those economic issues as well, he's very, very talented. There's no doubt about that. He's a useful man, then, to have in a higher position, I would have thought. Absolutely. I mean, I would like to have him in a higher position, and that door is certainly open to him. OK. Earlier in the week, though, you said you couldn't trust him. What does he have to do to win back your trust or support? Oh, I think he just needs to put his head down and work for the team, for all of the caucus. Let's put ambitions aside, and it's great to be ambitious, but we've got one leader, and let's work together to make sure that we get a Labour win. That's the most important thing that we can possibly do, and his input into that will be, I'm sure, in the future, very, very important. But right now, it's about trust and it's about loyalty. And I have to have trust in the people that are close to me and the people who I depend on. OK, what's the best then that David Cunliffe can hope for under a David Shearer-led Labour Party? Look, I'm not going to go down the path of where we're going to go into the future. What I'm saying now is that the door is open. We'll certainly look at that as time goes on, and we'll make that judgment later on. Does he know what he has to do? Have you had that conversation with him? We'll have a closer conversation in the days ahead. You're planning to sit down and have a talk with him about this? Oh, obviously. I mean, I'm going to sit down with all the caucus members, as I regularly do, actually, and have been doing over the last year. You'll have to reshuffle the caucus, presumably. You need to move around a few people in there now. What's going to happen with the likes of, say, Sue Moroney, who hasn't come out and, say, publicly endorsed you? Could she lose her positioning potentially in the hierarchy?
Look, I'm not going to go through a whole list of different people and what they're doing and what they're not doing. As I say, I'll go around over the next few days. I've already had a chat to Sue over the last few days. So I'll go around and talk to those people and see where they believe their talents are best used, and we'll take a judgment from there. But I'm not in any great hurry. I'll take it in my own time, and I'll do it in my own way.
As much as in the past you have referred to blogs and the blogosphere and people who make comments, etc., that you don't listen and you don't read those, one blog that is fairly influential with the left and Labour followers is The Standard. It's been pretty raucous. There's been a lot of opposition to you, certainly. How helpful has that been, or otherwise? I mean, I'm sure you're going to say you don't view it, but would it, in an ideal world, would The Standard not be there?
Well, I don't read it because, to be perfectly honest, I mean, when I read it, there's no point in reading those sorts of things. I remember Graham Henry saying that he didn't read the critical comment the next day after an All Black game, and I think, to be honest with you, I can understand why he said that. There's no point in doing it. You do listen to trusted advisors, but reading anonymous blogs, whether they be in The Standard or anywhere else, I don't know who these people are. I would prefer to have a chat to somebody or have them call up, and many people do. I get lots of advice from different people, and that's the best way of being able to think about where I'm going.
You said on this program earlier this year that you were going to spend a lot of time listening to the party about issues like this, listening to the commentary out there, be that in newspapers or potentially blogs in relation to people like David Cunliffe and the leadership issues. Are you listening to people? What are they telling you? What is people in your party talking to you about?
Right from the very beginning, I mean, I've spent an enormous amount of time on the road. You can ask my wife that. I've been right around the country in small towns and large towns, speaking at different halls and conferences on Marae, a lot of working men's clubs and things like that. Look, the thing that people talk to me most about is finding it really difficult to get ahead, worried about their jobs, finding it difficult to meet the bills and pay the bills, and asking for us to get behind them. I mean, the number of people who say to me, I'm working as hard as I can, I'm doing what I can to raise my kids, but I just can't seem to get ahead. You guys need to get in behind us and help us. That's the comment that I've heard more than anything else. OK, so you've been on Marae, as you mentioned. You don't have the endorsement from the likes of Shane Jones or Parakera Horomia. What are you going to do about, trying to get the Māori vote? Well, I have been on Marae and all over the country with Parakura, and Parakura, and both Parakura and Shane have been great advisors to me. I mean, particularly Parakura, his network across Māoridom is awesome. He was pretty vague though in the last few days about whether or not he'd support. Oh, look, people say different things in front of a TV camera. I mean, you have to accept that, and I have a lot of conversations behind the scenes, and what you see and what I see are very different perspectives. So what is going on, though, then, behind the scenes? Because, there is, you are putting on a front, and I understand that there have been lots of conversations going on behind. How would you describe the mood in the party at the moment? Because it's been a pretty raucous week for everybody. Look, it's been a tough week, and I understand that. But at the same time, it's also been a week where we came off the back of a conference with the biggest changes in a generation, with the biggest conference in a generation, and the biggest turnout to a Labour speech that anybody can remember. And I think people came out of that conference actually really buoyed up that we were going in the right direction and in the right direction for New Zealand. And unfortunately, these other issues kind of clouded the way. But ultimately, behind all that, there is a real sense of optimism and a real forward-thinking perspective of let's get out there and let's do it. The housing policy was well received among your supporters, but a housing policy won't win you an election. What else have you got up your sleeve? Well, we'll announce policy as we get closer to the election. In fact, it's very unusual for parties to announce a large piece of policy like that so early on. But we actually thought it was important because it's an important issue that affects a lot of New Zealanders. I mean, there are hundreds of thousands of young New Zealanders in particular, but first home buyers who just simply can't get that first step on the rung of the ladder. And many of them are going to Australia because they have more chance of getting a house there than they have in New Zealand. So we felt it was really important to say, look, there's another way, And it's about the government getting involved and using the government's ability to raise money and build houses as a way of moving forward. And that, I think, has been incredibly well received. And it's something that, if the government picked that up, this government picked it up, I'd be absolutely delighted. I'd tell them it was our policy, of course, but I'd still be very delighted.
Mr Shearer, just finally, a long time in politics. Do you feel stronger now, more stable than what you did last weekend?
Oh, look, I can tell you quite categorically, I got into this job to make a difference for New Zealand and to be the Prime Minister in 2014 and lead Labour. That hasn't changed one iota.
All right, Mr Shearer, appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel.